Chapter 7. The Boy. In a little while they forgot they had ever lived without the boy. Things would remind them, of course. It feels strange to make them so small, the mermaid would say, as she made the boy's shoes and shirts and trousers of the softest, whitest deerskin, all covered with shell patterns of birds and flowers. She said about clothes, "I can see where they're right for him." And she made a deerskin cap and sewed so many blue jay feathers on it you couldn't tell it was made of deerskin. The boy's head was one blue blaze. The hunter made the boy 4 arrows and a bow as good as his own, only smaller. The boy wore them, but he was still too young to shoot with them, except when the hunter held his hands on the bow and bowstring. The hunter made him a little bed, covered it with the skin of a mountain lion, hung the bow and arrows over it, and every night put him in it together with his toys, the ball and a fur bear, a wooden lynx, and the hunter's necklace. So as not to hurt the mermaid's feelings, it was only lent to the boy, and the carvings of the hunter's father and mother. Sometimes the real lynx would come in the middle of the night, and in the morning when the boy awoke, the lynx would be there, curled at the bottom of the bed. The boy would reach down and stroke his head, and the lynx would yawn and give a sleepy purr. But the bear was too big for the bed. When he lay down by it, his head went up past its head, and his feet down past its foot. The mermaid and the hunter and the boy went to the beach almost as much as the mermaid and the hunter had gone in the old days. The boy loved the sand and shells and little shallow waves that splashed in over his legs and stomach. Sometimes the hunter, with the boy in his arms, would wade out to where the big waves were, and as some great green white-headed wave hung over them about to break, it would seem to the boy that there was nothing in the world strong enough to save them. Then the hunter would thrust himself up powerfully. The wave would burst around them in a smother of white, salt, blinding foam. The boy would gasp and shut his eyes, and when he opened them, he and the hunter stood there alone. The wave was over. In the little pool at the side of the river, the mermaid taught the boy to swim, the way I do, but with legs. Before long, swimming was as natural to him as walking, just as hearing the mermaid's stories, saying the mermaid's words were as natural to him as hearing the hunter's stories and saying the hunter's words. "He talks like one of the sea people," the mermaid said proudly. "Whatever he says has that watery sound." The hunter gasped in his best dolphin, help me to the beach," and asked the mermaid whether it had a watery sound. The mermaid said, pointing, "You say it the way your father would. Whatever you say has that walnut sound." "Let and live let," the hunter replied amicably. This was the way the mermaid had remembered live and let live, and the hunter hadn't corrected her, at first out of politeness, and then because her way made better sense to him. Of course, the mermaid had no idea that he was repeating her proverb, not his own. Sometimes they would tell the boy how the lynx had come for them and led them to him, and how they had found him pressed up against the bear, fast asleep. Once or twice they took him to the little marker the hunter had put over the mother's grave. But except for 1 or 2 confused, uneasy dreams, all the boy's memories were memories of the mermaid and the hunter. He knew that the hunter was his father, and the mermaid his mother, and had always been. The two of them were different from him, different from each other, but aren't a boy's father and mother always different from him, different from each other? The difference between the hunter and the mermaid was no greater to the boy than the difference between his father's short hair and trousers, his mother's long hair and skirts, is to any child. The boy felt, "They're always telling me the lynx found me," but he would smile at his father and mother and pretend the lynx had found him. One day the hunter smiled back and said, "You must think you've lived with us always." The boy didn't know whether to say yes or no, and gave a laugh of confused joy, so that the mermaid smiled and said, "Yes, you think you've lived with us always." The boy's heart beat faster, but he said, "No, the lynx found me," and this got to be a game of theirs, because he knew it wasn't so. The boy enjoyed saying the lynx had found him, and the hunter and mermaid enjoyed saying that the boy had lived with them always, because of many things. The boy went to sleep before the hunter and the mermaid, and woke up before them. Sometimes he and the lynx were the only things awake in the house. The boy would sit up in his bed and look around at the hunter asleep under the bearskin, the mermaid asleep on top of it, the bear snoring by the fireplace, the hunter's bows and his own bow, the skins and shells and hunting horn, the blue-flowered, deer-hoofed figurehead over the door, and there was not one thing there that to the boy was strange. One night, an hour or 2 after he'd gone to sleep, the sound of the rain waked him, and he heard his mother saying to his father, "He's so good and so clever, but he does grow slowly. I don't understand it. Remember how fast the bear grew? And the lynx." The hunter didn't answer for a moment. He must have been remembering his own childhood. "I don't know," he said. "I don't think we grow as fast as they do. It seems to me I was a boy a long time, a long time. The mermaid went on, He's so different from our little ones. He's better than they are. They are bad little things, and he's a lot more interesting. He thinks of the strangest things. He does? I should say so. He makes up undersea stories he tells me. This morning he told me that when he grows up he's going to make a bow and arrow you can shoot underwater and marry one of the sea people and live with her at the bottom of the ocean. That's not so strange, the hunter retorted. I've often thought of doing that myself. The mermaid said blandly, You think of the strangest things. Next morning, when the boy remembered hearing them, he didn't know whether or not it had been a dream. The part about growing slowly was important to him. He'd always lived with the mermaid and the hunter, he reasoned, and the bear and the lynx had come later, and grown faster. That was why they were bigger. He liked having heard his father's, It seems to me I was a boy a long time. It seemed to him that he had been a boy a long time. The days went by for him, all different and all the same. The boy was happy, and yet he didn't know that he was happy exactly. He couldn't remember having been unhappy. If one day, as he played at the edge of the forest, some talking bird had flown down and asked him, Do you like your life? He would not have known what to say, but would have asked the bird, Can you not like it?